I decided to write a post today on my Substack, which is called Wealth Done Right, about Airbnbs. I've seen people who are trying to start Airbnbs make mistakes, and then I've also been getting phone calls from investors asking me questions about purchasing Airbnbs. So here's the thing. If you are thinking about buying an Airbnb, a condo, a condotel, a microtel, anything like that in a high resort concentrated area, then this video is for you. Because most people are buying Airbnbs right now, but they're not asking the right questions and they're not doing it the right way. So because they're not asking the right questions, in this market, we're basically like in a housing crisis. The risk isn't just occupancy, it is going to be dependency. Dependency on basically your mortgage, dependency on a traveler, dependency on a number of factors. And I know you're saying, well, why dependency instead of occupancy? Because now you're going to be dependent on not just a traveler, but a particular type of traveler. You're going to be dependent on getting your mortgage paid because you've already got the bank loan. You already put your 20% down. You've already, of course, HOA fees, insurance, things like that. So you're going to be dependent on that. But before you even start thinking about an Airbnb and losing money, there are a few things that you need to get right, or it can really turn into a very, very, very expensive mistake. At some point, you're going to have to put your money down, and you're going to have to think about getting a property manager, fees for advertising, and all those things factor in. I mean, you got taxes that increase every year. Everything is going up. But one of the first things that I want you to think about, and almost nobody sees it coming, is the mistake that about 99% of the people that I meet, investors, they forget to ask a question about what if the platform Airbnb disappears tomorrow? You don't own Airbnb.com. And if your entire deal works on one platform, you don't own a business. Again, you own dependency. You are dependent on what Airbnb showing up. So if you think about the OTAs or the online travel agencies, think about like Booking.com, Expedia.com, whatever platform you want to think about, or what people use, Priceline, etc. You are depending on them being able to find you, and you are depending on those companies to show up daily. You are saying to yourself and to your company, to your business, to your money, I know that these companies are going to show up tomorrow. For somebody to be able to find your property, if you're on one platform, and if that platform goes away, where are they going to find you? So what I always tell people is that they need to go into a direct booking strategy. That's the first thing I tell them to do. Because, well, first of all, I tell them to get into an entrance strategy and an exit strategy. If you know me, you already know that. But as far as Airbnbs, I say get a direct booking strategy. And I actually wrote a small guide on this. It's about 10 pages. Basically a guide that talks about direct booking strategies. What you need to do and what you need to understand is that if you rely on one platform that you don't control, then you don't own it and it could go belly up, and then your business could go belly up. So what you have to do is you have to own your own website. On your own website, you can do the marketing. You can put up deals. You can do like I do that say, for my beach property, golfers, anybody doing a sporting event, anybody who's a traveling nurse. You can put up deals. So let's just say you fix that. Let's just say that you own your own website now. You're good. Most properties still feel in a market downturn or a recession. Like pretty much what we're in right now, because everything's going up. And that's not exactly bad. It's not bad to have an Airbnb in a recession, but you've got to be positioned right. And most people are positioned wrong. How do I know this? You know how I know? I always talk about how wealth isn't income. Wealth isn't a number, and wealth is what you own and what you control. So you can control your website, right? But you don't control your positioning. You're waiting on a vacationer or a middle income person to go, on vacation, go on a trip, go for a wedding, maybe even, family visits. Your positioning is wrong. What is your entrance strategy? And what is your exit strategy? When people come to me, they don't come to me because they just want a realtor. You can get a realtor. Realtors are a dime a dozen. Honestly, they're on billboards. You can look on Google. You can find somebody. I mean, right now, if you're on Facebook and you ask your friends and family, hey, can you refer a realtor to me? You're going to get over 200 responses, I'm telling you. You're going to get the most interaction you've ever had on your post. Because everybody's a realtor or does some kind of real estate in some aspect or knows somebody that does. It is what it is. So just high level thinking here. The reason why they come to me is because first of all, I'm concerned about their best interest, but I also give excellent entrance strategies and exit strategies like it's nobody's business. I'm a critical thinker. And so somebody's listening to this right now and they're saying, you know what, I'm a realtor. I'm going to use that strategy. I'm going to give somebody an entrance strategy and an exit strategy, and I'm going to bundle it up together. And they're going to pivot, and they're going to start doing this, which I'm not even mad because they can't do it like me. That's why I'm sharing it right now with you. I want more people to be prepared to go into an Airbnb. And you can't do it like I do it. So I'm okay with sharing the information. So what I mean by position wrong, what am I saying? What type of Airbnb stay survives when travel drops? Think about that for a minute. When I was looking at 2 of my properties, I was thinking about getting an Airbnb. I was thinking about a vacation spot where me and my family can go and do things that we can't do at home. But I had to think, what if people stop traveling? Like, consider COVID. Great example. What would I do? How would I pivot? What would I shift to? That was the model that I was beginning with. That was my entrance strategy. Because I know that I want to keep a consumer. Even if I'm not making a bunch of money in the beginning, I want to have consistent money and I want to have consistent flow. So let's just talk about what types of stays survive when travel drops and when there's a recession. Think about it right now in the situation that the U.S. economy is in. Gas prices are high. It takes a lot more money to fill up your gas tank. It costs a lot more money to fly. Think about baggage fees. Because, what was it? United Airline and another airline just raised their baggage fees. Everything's going up because of the oil and the Iran war. So we already know that prices on everything, even food, are increasing. So what is going to get someone to your property on a consistent basis? Think about what demand exists without tourism. That's the thing. What demand exists without you having to get somebody that's traveling for vacation or spring break for Thanksgiving or Christmas? What travel is sustained? And the third question is the one that decides if this works long term. If tourism disappeared, who would still book this? What would still pay you is what I always ask people, especially like if you're talking about retirement. Okay, if your job stops paying you due to AI, if the market takes a downturn and your 401k tanks, what still pays you? That's what I ask about people who are investors who are looking to buy Airbnbs. What if, let's just say tourism disappeared? Who would still book your property? Let me give you an example. I went to a very, very interesting gathering for people in the housing industry at a hotel here in the Charlotte area. Brilliant idea. The strategy and everything was how I think. And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm just so proud of them right now. I'm so proud of the individual and what they were doing because what they did, what they tapped into, the mindset, excuse me, that I already have, because it has your best interest in mind, it has strategy, and it has an exit strategy. Who is coming to you regardless? Because again, if you don't have a traveler because of gas prices or airline tickets are too high, who would still book you? Because that's the safest Airbnbs right now. They're not built on vacations. They're built on necessity. So you think about insurance. If somebody had a fire, their house caught on fire or their apartment got flooded, they would need a place to stay because insurance is going to reimburse them, is going to reimburse you. It's going to pay you regardless. Relocation. Charlotte is a hub for relocation. They have the market on continual turnover. There are a lot of people here that are traveling nurses because you've got to have somewhere to stay. Traveling nurses, corporate stays, and then you have long-term winter stays. If you know anything about my Airbnb at the beach, it's in a secluded neighborhood, close to a beach, but still far enough away, and it's on a lake, which gives a very serene, calming effect. Not a lot of noise. It's grown. I would say grown and sexy, but it's not sexy, you know. As far as the people that are there, they are adult and business-minded. If people book my Airbnb, they want something where they can go to work, come home from work, or work from their own location. In my Airbnb, I have 2 workstations inside. One is closed off and then one is in an open space. So that if they want to talk to somebody, they don't have to be, behind closed doors. They can still see everybody. And if they bring one more person with them, they don't necessarily have to, be in an office type environment. And I did that intentionally. And if they have a child, I also did something for families with children. So how far are they from the nearest restaurant, the nearest Publix? Not your average grocery store, but a mid-tier or upscale. A Whole Foods, something like that. Restaurants like P.F. Chang's and that chain of restaurants, that mid-tier, how close are they? Now, I will say this, and here's the part. Most investors don't realize that the best performing Airbnbs don't look like Airbnbs at all. They're built like something else entirely. They still do short stays, but they don't look like an Airbnb. They don't look like a hotel stay. What do they actually look like? I'm about to tell you. They look like a community where if they wanted to, they could probably rent long-term or live there. Follow me, especially in this economy. If somebody called me and said, my job is keep me here long-term, and maybe I'm going to be here for another year or two. I would like to rent out your place. That's the field where you want to be in. That's what you want. You want to be in a place where it's a bunch of people who are business savvy, who are getting reimbursed. Like I said, houses or fires, anything like that. You don't want to be where it's a lot of people screaming or going to the beach. You want people like golfers. They stay here. You know why? Because I cater toward events, softball tournaments. I don't do bike week. I don't do bike week. That's not my client. Bike week it's really not for me, and it's not my crowd for where my property is for the location. They're not going for that. They're not going for the noise. But golfers, sometimes baseball games, etc., they're going to be held because when they come in town, when they come to stay, they're able to relax, but they're also able to be in an environment that's calming, like I said, on the lake, because they're competing. When you have a person that competes at a high level, they have that intensity right before they go to the event. So they want peace. They want quietness. And they're the ones that are going to travel regardless of gas prices, regardless of airline tickets, because they know, one, that's a passion for them. If they're a golfer, they already have they're already locked in. They're already in a competition. So that's what I wanted to say. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about most people are missing after they buy the Airbnb, if they missed it, how to pivot. Because when you're buying an Airbnb and you don't have the experience, well, first of all, you're not asking the right questions because you may not be working with a licensed real estate investor. I'm a licensed real estate agent, but I'm also an investor. And sometimes people say, oh, I'm going to talk to my CPA about purchasing an Airbnb. I want you to know that CPAs may not always be investors, and they may just want to side with you because they don't want to argue with you. They don't want to upset you because they want to keep your business. If you go to them and say, I want a long-term or a short-term rental property, they're just going to agree. Yeah, sure. Why are they going to do this? Not because it's a great idea, but because they want to get paid. And then you have to ask them, what is my exit strategy? What is my return on equity? When does it not make sense anymore? When is it time to sell? Let's say you want to rent in a high traffic area. When the recession comes, you don't get the money. Well, your CPA is not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you, oh, great. I look at the numbers. If you have this many travelers, this many vacationers, you do this at this price, you're going to make a lot of money. And the only way to make money on certain properties is to raise the nightly stay fee. You got to have the cleaners. There's fees involved with that. Who's going to continue to pay you? If you don't get the travelers, then what happens? What is your exit plan? What is your return on investment? Again, because you got to think about whenever you buy a property every year, I don't care if it's a long-term, short-term, or even your property at home, what is your return on equity? To see if the property is still a viable purchase. If you're going to make a decent profit. If you're not making a profit, then why are you doing it? And so, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not a licensed attorney dealing with real estate. This is for entertainment purposes only. And, I'm just here to start the conversation. All right, y'all. Take care and God bless.